Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Helping Small Businesses Thrive. This is a weekly podcast and vlog that will go through all the latest news, updates for small businesses. So this week we're covering things like HMRC updates, what our trending conversations are with our clients at OnPoint Accounting Group. We are also going to be filling the shows with tips and tricks, interviewing people in various different industries that will help you understand how they've grown their business, so you can take some learnings from that and help grow your business. Absolutely tons of helpful information coming up over the weeks to come. We're going to be broadcasting on podcasts and on video. So without further ado, let's get on with the first episode. So this week, first week of the brand new year, 2022 has been welcomed in. What's new, what's different to 2021? Not a lot. COVID is still making life difficult for all small businesses, especially with Omicron now. We're seeing huge sickness ratings across all of our clients. We're seeing lots of clients really struggling and trying to plan for the future, trying to understand how their cash flow is going to be impacted. So with that in mind, let's crack on with some HMRC updates. So HMRC have been very busy this week with updates. First one is that HMRC have announced the self-assessment tax deadline that normally is on the 31st of January. They are not going to penalise you with penalties if you file or pay your tax return late this January. So normally you've got to get your tax return in and payments made by the 31st of January 2022. This year you're going to get an extra 28 days to do that in. Same principle as it was in 2021. The major difference is HMRC got a lot of grief for announcing this announcement 2 days before the tax return deadline last year. They claimed it was for psychological reasons. It was to encourage people to get as many tax returns in as possible on time. But this year they've taken the advice on board and they've announced it on the 6th of January. Now there is one little catch to this announcement. You will not get the £150 late filing penalty for filing your accounts 31st of January and 28th of February this year. You won't get the penalty for late payment if you don't pay your tax before the 28th of February this year. However, HMRC will still charge interest on any monies due to them that should have been paid normally by the 31st of January. If you pay it between the 31st of January and the 28th of February, you won't get their late payment fee, but you will still incur some interest. Interest rates at HMRC are exceptionally low, so it's not the end of the world, but it's something to be aware of. So it still encourages best practice of getting your tax return in before the 31st of January, but it gives you a bit of breathing space if COVID, business, life just gets in the way for you. So that's announced nice and early this year. I think they announced it on the 29th of January last year, so that caused a bit of uproar, especially in the accounting industry when they've been already working weekends and long nights to try and get on top of everything. So yeah, that's our first bit of news from HMRC this week. This week's episode has been sponsored by the OnPoint R&D credits team. R&D has been seen as a tax relief for the big companies and software companies for a very long time. But did you know, as a small limited company of any size, you could be entitled to R&D tax credits? The OnPoint R&D team have been helping to get small businesses their rightful R&D tax credits for the last 2 years. In that 2 years, they've deposited over £650,000 worth of R&D tax credits into the client bank accounts, and that's after the fees have been taken into account. The average claim is worth between £3,000 and £7,000 a year. You can claim back up to 2 years when you start, and it's an annual claim so that we can take into account all of your changes every year. R&D could be from developing a new directory version of a menu item, be developing new foods to go on a menu. It could be working out ways to make more energy efficient heating or plumbing or electrics in a listed building. It's got a really wide and diverse range. So you're definitely better off inquiring, having a quick conversation with the R&D team to work out if you are entitled to any R&D. Tax credits are often paid back into the account or they offset the corporation tax return, which means that it frees up more cash for your cash flow. If you'd like to have a chat with the OnPoint R&D tax credits team, please reach out using the website below in the description. Second bit of news from HMRC this week, although not directly from HMRC, but it involves HMRC. Coinbase, a big cryptocurrency market software, website, platform, app, whatever you want to call it. Coinbase has been issued with a legal notice from HMRC, which basically means that Coinbase have to hand over their customer database to HMRC. So HMRC exercised this power a few years ago. They approached Airbnb. They said, look, we know you've got hundreds of customers renting out their accommodation, their spare bedrooms, and generating revenue from that. And we also know most of those customers are not declaring it on their tax returns. So they've got this extra income that is taxable, but they're not declaring it. So HMRC told Airbnb, we want your customer database, we want their name, addresses, and sales data. Well, HMRC have now approached Coinbase with exactly the same demand. They've said, look, we know you've got loads of customers that are buying cryptocurrency, selling cryptocurrency, often for a profit, and that profit is not being declared to HMRC, so we are unaware as to whether we should be taxing it or not, and people are not paying their fair share of taxes. So we want their names, addresses, what they've brought, what they've sold, and what the profit was. What they plan to do with that is then the same as they did with Airbnb. They'll go through all the client details, they will go through and contact those customers saying, look, we know you've been doing this. There'll probably be a grace period. Give us the information we need to know before this date and we won't penalise you. We'll just add interest to what late payments there are and then just declare it in future. If you then decide you don't want to declare it to them, they may open an investigation to work out whether there should be anything there paid or not. So definitely worth having a look at that. And if you have been trading on Coinbase and you've not declared anything to HMRC yet, do it. If you've been trading on any cryptocurrency platform and you've not declared it to HMRC any profits yet, do it, because I think this is going to be the start of a regular thing we're going to see from HMRC. They're going to target the big players in cryptocurrency. They're going to target the big players in stocks and markets where the public can generally just go and make their own purchases and selling of stocks. HMRC want to know what you're making as a profit so they can decide if there's any tax to pay on that. HMRC aren't as daft as we often think they are. They can be slow and very useless in a lot of places, but when it comes to taxing new emerging markets, they do move on it fairly quickly, to be fair to them. The government has been telling us in the last week to expect up to 25% sickness levels within your staffing levels. That's huge. I mean, during winter you might see up to 5% sickness levels. 25% is absolutely huge, and for a lot of small businesses that's going to be really damaging to the small businesses' operational requirements and whether they can even operate with that 25% missing. What the government have done is back in December they announced the statutory sick pay claims can come back in. So during COVID at the start, if you're a small business and your staff member went off sick with COVID, you'd pay them statutory sick pay and then you could claim that money back from HMRC, which you can't normally do. They've reintroduced that for December and January. The claims for that will open on the 11th of January. So if you've been paying statutory sick pay for any staff in December or in January that have been off ill with COVID for more than 3 days, that means they get their statutory sick pay. If they've been off ill or off isolating, even if they haven't had it but they've been had to isolate by instruction, they can claim statutory sick pay and you can claim that payment back from HMRC so it doesn't hit your financials because your employees have been following the rules that they've been asked to follow. So that opens on the 11th of January. There is a blog linked in below this that will talk you through all the fact sheets, It'll give you a link to also go and make your claim from the 11th of January. HMRC are hoping to pay out within 6 days, so you can take that into account when you're talking cash flow. Speaking of cash flow, that brings us on to our next big trend of our discussions at OnPoint Accounting Group with our clients. Loads and loads of clients talking cash flow, worried about the pinch because the cash they normally get in December and early January from the sales just hasn't occurred this year. People aren't out going to hospitality venues. People aren't spending money on the high street. People aren't spending money even online for the sales. All the reports we're seeing are sales are down year on year. So that means businesses that then normally have a really quiet January, February are having to be really tight with their spending. They need to understand where they can and can't spend their money and where they can try and save some money. So what we've been doing, we've been advising all of our clients to keep going back onto QuickBooks cash flow tool, which is built into their QuickBooks license free of charge. Have a look at that, input what you know, input your outgoings, keep your bank up to date regularly, like on a daily basis, because QuickBooks' cash flow tool bases its information off your bank feed. So you've got a constant live cash flow tool there, which is really, really helpful for you helping planning and understanding what you're going to need to do over the coming weeks. If you need any advice on how to use that, link in the description below. That will be linking you to a video that I did revisiting the cash flow tool end of last year. So I've done 2 videos on this tool now. One when it first came out, when it was in beta testing. One now with all its new features, how best to use it in your small business on a daily basis. So that is linked in below. We're hoping that these episodes last 10 to 15 minutes each week, and that they're informative. They keep you up to date with the news, so you don't have to keep spending time researching stuff, and it helps verify maybe what you hear on Twitter. A client rang me yesterday saying, I've heard HMRC are going to extend the filing deadline without any penalties. I heard it on Twitter. I said, yep, that's true. It's for self-assessment returns. Oh, right, well, the client thought it was for companies, limited companies. It's like, no, they still stay the same. This is just for personal tax returns. So hopefully these little episodes will give you some verification of the information that you've heard throughout the week. The rumours get a bit of qualification behind them. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, whether you're on podcasts, whether you're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe so you get the update when we release the next weekly episode. We'll also be releasing bonus content throughout the year. That could be interviews with industry specialists. It could be interviews with entrepreneurs so you can understand how they've built their business, what they've done, maybe take some of their ideas and implement it in your own business. It might be that I'm too excited to tell you something about a new feature within a software that you might use. So I just do a special short bonus footage for that. Or it might be there's a really important news update that falls outside of our cycle, but we need to let you know about it straight away. So we'll do bonus content for that. So to get access to all of that, make sure you subscribe, whether you're listening on podcast or YouTube. I look forward to joining me next week, where we will be looking at the latest news, the latest trends, any tips and tricks we've heard of during the week, anything we think you might be able to use to help grow your business and help your business thrive in the UK's current economy. Thank you very much. Have a good week. I'll see you all next week.